Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Awaken People of Earth. I'm James, and my special guest today is
Maddie.
and we are going to be talking about card readings today. So I know it's something that you'll probably see around quite a bit, and there's definitely more interest as far as in everybody kind of learning how to do it on their own. But there's possibly, and what I definitely see is a lot of confusion as to what is a card reading, tarot, like, how do you do tarot, or what's the purpose behind it, and oracle's the other thing that we're going to talk about, and because there's oracle cards and tarot cards, could be a little confusing. Really, essentially it's the same, but we're going to definitely cover that for a little bit, and then so I guess where I want to start, Maddie, is I'd like to kind of open up with just a little bit about your backstory, kind of talk to us a little bit about your journey, because I know you've grown up in a little bit different kind of home wise, environment,
Yeah.
and just it's giving you exposure to things that probably many people haven't had. I think it's probably played a bit of a part in your role in leading you to the card
Yeah.
reading, right?
Absolutely. So I was actually raised in a Southern Baptist home, two preacher families or family, several preachers in my family. But when my mom married my stepdad, they moved together, and which meant that the libraries came together, and he had a big astrology book in his library. That's
Cool.
actually where I really got started. Was in astrology, and I read all of that, and I always believed in it, and I always loved it. But for the jump to tarot, I don't actually fully remember it. I know that I was going through, I guess you could call it like a dark night of the soul or whatever,
Okay.
which people have many.
Very familiar with that. Yeah.
So at the end of that, I was looking for answers, and I may have been looking for something on YouTube, and I came across somebody reading tarot on YouTube. And so then I went to our local shop and I found my first tarot deck, which was a advanced tarot deck. So I ended up having to return it and go back for the traditional, which we'll talk
That's a
about
bit
later.
much, right?
Yep. But the very first time I used tarot cards, it was on my birthday, first of all, and I basically pulled a card that indicated birthday celebrations. And every spread that I did for myself made perfect sense, and it just resonated with me. And that's how I got into doing tarot readings.
Now, did you ever get a reading before that, or you just kind of started diving in that way?
No, I just dived in. Yep,
Oh, that's awesome. So
I've never seen a psychic or another reader until I started reading for other people.
oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So is there? And you said you had like kind of a dark night of the soul. So, and then that kind of opened you up more, or kind of guided you into that direction, right?
Absolutely. It kind of pushed me into a corner where I was absolutely miserable, and I had to find some way to apply the most effective change, I guess. I had to find something that brought meaning to my life, that gave me a
Yes.
reason to be better. Because it was one of those dark nights of the soul where I was just being not my best self.
Right.
To put it lightly.
Right.
So it was
We've all been
personal.
there.
Yeah. It was not the circumstances around me, it was all within me, which I think that tarot is a very effective tool for figuring out exactly what's going on within you, what's going on under
Yeah.
the surface.
Yes.
It's great for therapy, self therapy, or helping others. In fact, that's the primary use for it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as it's been a really wonderful tool for assisting with building confidence
Yeah.
and trusting your own inner guidance.
Yep.
While it is, we'll kind of discuss, it is a way to connect to your guides or your angels. I mean, it's a lot of times how people refer to it. But
Yep.
what I feel the real strength comes in is that what you're doing is you're building confidence in the messages that come to you. The term that you hear a lot nowadays is resonance, like what resonates with you.
Yep.
And it's amazing to do, like, as you start learning to pull cards, is that you're pulling them and you'll just see these little affirmations of, man, I've been feeling
Yep.
that. That's exactly,
Yep.
yes. So when you see that enough, you start to learn to just trust the way you feel, right? Because we've turned that off. We haven't really necessarily utilize that ability or that gift that
No.
that we all carry. So
In fact, we're kind of programmed the minute you enter elementary school that you don't trust your intuition and you don't speak. And
Right. Intellectual mind. Everything's about like
yes,
thinking it through first versus a feeling of something, using the heart mind, right? That's really where we want to be.
and I also think that tarot is useful because in that way where, we switch on our logical mind, we shut off our intuition, we shut off our emotional awareness, I think, to a large degree. And for anybody who might be like me, who kind of can be dissociated a little bit, like I do very much separate from my emotions. And I did it for so long that I'm still at a place where I still don't recognize my own emotions. And tarot has helped me to kind of put words, I guess, to my feelings, or like
Yes.
there's an archetype for almost anything within the traditional tarot deck. So it just teaches you about what it being human, I guess, is the best way I
Right.
can put it, and understanding the phases in life, and as well as what goes on underneath the surface emotionally. And it also helps to kind of highlight just how similar everybody experiences life, even if the colors and the environment and the surfaces are different. It's still very much the same journey that we all go on in this lifetime. So
Yeah.
it helps to
Helps you
understand.
connect, right? Like
Yeah,
you're connecting to that. Like it's the same deck of cards, but no matter who you're reading for, it can come up with different messages, right?
absolutely.
So one thing that I feel it really builds on is working with those universal forces, right? The first lesson is there's no coincidences.
Yeah,
So when you
absolutely.
let go of it, the fact that it's a coincidence, that card fell out of the deck, oops, right? Instead you say, well, maybe it jumped out for a reason, and then
Yeah.
you put it down, right? And you add that to your like that's part of building that, right? Just learning how to work in those universal forces.
And
You're
not overthinking it.
right. And then that's like the other part is getting out of the way of, trying to overthink what it might be telling you. And if something doesn't come up right away, for a lot of people who just start out, sometimes the messages aren't super clear. You're still kind of learning to build that insight a little bit and kind of releasing that, and opening up that intuition guidance a bit more. But, you just kind of learn to you just sit on it for a minute. Maybe it'll come to you later, sleep
Absolutely.
on it, meditate on it,
Yeah.
anything that you can do to kind of allow your mind to get out of the way so that you can start to really get a more clear message. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And I guess so. Why don't we do this? What I want to do is just in the spirit of things, because this is what spirit of things. So what I want to do, because we did this the last couple of videos and it's been fun. So this is again, if you were to just search like what's tarot, and we're gonna dive in a little bit more as to like oracle and tarot as well, because we both read from both of those.
Yep.
And so we'll kind of get into that. But what I wanted to say is if you were to Google this, and of course, our favorite Fakepedia site pulls this up, this is what you would find out, right? Tarot, first known, as all of these words that I'm not going to even try and butcher, is a pack of playing cards used from the mid 15th century in various parts of Europe to play games, such as Italian tarocchini, okay, and French tarot, and then other versions of that, right? All through a few different areas of the world, many of which are still played today. So it's interesting because they're already labeling it like it's a playing card game,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
you can see how easily it could be misguided. Now, another thing I want to talk about that gets kind of understood about tarot, there's this idea that it is fortune telling.
Yeah.
And while,
Yeah.
yes, there are some gifted readers or intuitives or psychics, which, by the way, we all have that ability, okay?
Absolutely.
But there are some that have probably cultivated those skills a lot longer and came in already with that knowing of things. So they can really tap into some really amazing frequencies and information.
Yep. Yep.
But I will tell you 100% the way I've been learning to kind of walk through this self-mastery, I don't lock into anything when it comes to a prediction of time.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
Because energy can change.
I refuse.
Right?
I downright refuse.
Right? So when you pull cards and you get cards out there, you're knowing or having an idea of how something it could happen or what it's leading to, is already going to shift the possible outcome
Absolutely.
of those cards. So you have to let go of this is a future reading. And if people are reading something to you and it feels dark, like, oh, you're gonna die, dude, like I'm already gonna say that's a sham. Like, my internal guidance is going, this isn't right, because any real guidance that comes in, right, when it comes to like higher self, angels, whatever, it is for your highest good. And yes, it's not always pleasant to hear.
Right.
But they're not gonna give you some dark message of death.
No. The death card never means literal physical death. It never,
Right.
if you get the death card, no one you love is, well, I mean, it's not saying that somebody's going to die, but it could feel like death. It could be ego death.
Well, yeah, because it is about one thing ending and a new beginning.
Yep.
Because everything is cycles. It is all about cycles. And that's really what we're talking about. And, you kind of mentioned how there's like the different stages of life. There's the basic tarot kind of really covers, and this is what I was even learning today from one of the videos that I looked up, was it's the fool's journey.
Yes.
You're already very familiar with that.
Yep.
Right?
We are all the fool. And that's what I was saying earlier about how we all go through this similar journey in our life. And that's why the tarot works so well, is because it's modeled after that, like the hero's journey, except it's the fool, because the fool is just a regular, everyday guy who is branching out to the world, discovering and gaining awareness through life's experiences. And so I forgot where I was going with that.
No, it's the fool's journey.
That's all it is.
Yeah, and that's and you'll see that in representation of the cards. So what we'll start with here, just since we're already talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to show you first is this is a tradition. This is what we would call a traditional. There's really two main forms or foundations of tarot. Thoth or Thoth, I believe, is one.
Yeah, I think it's Thoth.
I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. You'll be able to figure that out.
I'm sure he'll forgive us.
Words, So the next one is Rider-Waite. So Rider-Waite is what's the most common. It's what most of tarot decks are built after.
Yeah.
And it's a foundation of 78 cards, 22 major arcana cards, 56, I guess if you do the math, would be the other minor arcana cards, right? So it can get, when you get started, it can feel pretty overwhelming because there's a lot to try and dive into. And, and then there's the suits and, there's elements and all that. So, but what I want to show you is just a few pictures of some of these you'll probably recognize. So we've got like this one here. See if I can get this thing to focus. That's a little different. That's not really focusing, is it? And
it's okay. They can still kind of see it.
Right. Okay, so my camera work needs some work. So Justice, right? Oh, here's one that everybody's really scared of. The devil card, right? Which is really about like addictions and it's those temptations and things.
Bad
right?
habits, coping mechanisms.
Yeah, it's about awareness, guys. This is all about awareness, being aware of what's going on, why you might be feeling something. As we talked earlier, one of my favorite quotes that I like to quote is from Colette Baron-Reid, who has developed a lot of oracle decks, and she says it's meant to be more prescriptive than predictive.
Absolutely.
And that is an important distinction. Right? So when you realize that, then just like everything else in self-mastery, you start looking at it from an objective point of view, like what am I learning? What is this teaching me just in our everyday life?
Yes.
Right?
What am I perhaps not seeing that already exists right now
Magician,
in my own energy?
the Hanged Man, looking at things from a different point of view. Right? Like it's really, I mean, you can get it if you're really good into detail, you can get a lot off of a card. Me, I'm a little more simple, so I don't dive into all of like the directions that everybody's looking and all that. I mean, that's amazing. Like again, some card readers are really adept at that. Maddie does a wonderful job at reading the cards. She also does a good job at like putting them together in the groups, understanding the energies and how they relate. I mean, there's astrology energy to these. So if you're into astrology, as you were saying, you can understand like the how it connects to different, astrology and constellations and things like that. So that's really awesome. So now, just in comparison, I want to show you an oracle deck, and Maddie's going to show us some of her favorite decks as well. So this is one of my favorite decks. I use these all the time. I love these.
He does.
These he does. I do.
He does.
So these are by Kyle Gray, and he's wonderful. These are called Keepers of the Light, and you'll notice first of all, there's not 78 cards, right? So the biggest difference is there's not a set structure for oracle
at all.
Every one of them is different. It's all based on what the developer decides to put into them, what
Yep.
messages, and it's all up to that, right? And then again, there's no coincidences, so it doesn't matter what deck you get, you pull what you pull, and you just pick up what resonates with you.
Yeah, there are oracle decks where it's just images, it's just pictures. I found one the other day, it's ink blots, and some oracle decks are even meant to be read entirely intuitively, which I think would be a more advanced skill to develop once you get used to the idea of being in touch with your intuition. But
some of you might recognize this guy. kind of important.
Dad, are you space?
Right. But yeah, I mean, and these are great because these are called Keepers of the Light, and they have all these different, like, what we like to call typically ascended masters, right? So it's like these souls or these people that have been incarnated in some way or another that have kind of brought through a more advanced understanding or have learned in the process of that the understanding of the universe and all those wonderful loving energies. So what I love about these is I got stuff from, Celtic backgrounds in here. I mean, there's so many different ones. Here's Master Buddha, right? We just saw Jesus. So it is really diverse. Gaia, Mother Gaia, right? So earth energy, another wonderful energy. So it's just, I like the diversity of it. I like that it's not stuck to anything specific. And now the other big difference in Oracle cards that you'll notice is, and I don't know again because the camera's not really focusing on this, but down here, there's like a small little description underneath the card, right?
Yep.
So I like that because for me, most of my insights, while I love the energy of the art and all of that, I'm not such a detailed artistic, like I don't connect so much to the details of the art. Yeah, right. It's a lot, again, it's a lot to remember, but I do understand messages when they come in, the insight that comes in, I start to collect it, and it's like puzzle pieces, man. I just put them together.
Yep.
Right?
Which again is something that happens on a more intuitive level. You sit down and you just look at the cards together. Sometimes I'll stop in the middle of a reading and I'll just stare at the cards for a minute, and then something will pop into my head. A really big part of that is, waiting for the message to hit you, waiting for it to pop into your head. And you'll always have a really hard time, especially with tarot, if you try to come at it from memorizing card meanings. You cannot. When I was learning, should we talk?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. In order to fully, because I can't memorize for anything, I can't do it. But I had an easier time looking into the symbolism, the numbers, the astrological correspondences, in order to look at a card and piece together what the meaning could be, like the elements. That's in the chakras. A lot of decks will use the color to kind of communicate what kind of energy that card is bringing forth. So,
that's great. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah,
really
a lot
cool.
of red cards will be read as, like, if there's a bunch of red on it, then you think root chakra, blue, throat chakra, whatever. And then blue element, or blue water, I think air is yellow, fire is red, and earth is green. So if you see a lot of green, then it may correspond more to earthy energy or material life stuff.
Yeah, and this is great. So this is something I'm going to lead into as well. So first, what I want to do is I'm going to show you this other deck that I like, and the reason is because this is a combination of what I like to think of as an Oracle Tarot mix.
Oh.
So this has the 78 cards. They follow the basics of the Rider-Waite decks, but they call it Angel Tarot, and so then they associate some things they rename as angels, different angels. So like the Major Arcana. And again, I don't know if you can see this because again the camera work is awesome. So like Archangel Sandalphon is representative of unity, right? But it'll be in kind of the same like the same number 5 will be basically the same energy that's on the regular ones, right? So, but what I love about these is you're talking about, so the suits, there's 4 suits in the minor arcanas of tarot. So it is swords, pentacles, cups, and wands. Yes, thank you. So, but it's not always easy because they're just like these new symbols and you're trying to figure out, right? But what I found, again, we find our way differently, right? So for her, she's finding, or Maddie is finding, like the astrological energies connecting to the chakras.
And numerology is a big one.
Oh yeah,
forgot to
I do
mention
like
that.
numbers too. I do work with the numbers a bit. So again, what sticks out, right? Just whatever I can, stands out to me.
Yep.
So, but what I found with these, which is good, so instead of calling them the suit names, they actually give it the element name.
Yep.
So
I
then
like
this
that.
one
I
is
see
like
that.
air, and that one's water, right? And water is cups, so it has little cups down there, but they call it air. So or water. But what helped me with that is I found it easier to understand the energy behind the elements than I
Yeah.
did the actual card symbols or card suits.
Yep.
So again, however you get there, you're just learning to find your way, finding what works for you, just like all of the self-mastery work. That's why I find these to be really fascinating and fun to work with, because you're developing more understanding about you and how you understand life and energy, and how you're working within that. And even if you decide to do readings for other people, you're connecting to that energy, and then you start to understand and interpret it through your own energy and your own experience, but you connect messages with other people, and there's this really amazing thing that happens where you're connecting to people, and you can
Yep.
feel their energy. You'll feel it when you connect that. So yeah.
I'll show a couple
Yeah,
of the
definitely,
Oracle decks
please.
that I have real quick, because there's another thing when it comes to Oracle decks that they can apply to different things. So I have an Oracle deck. I'll show you right now, and it's gonna be hard to see because of the art style, but it's animals, and it's got the whoop, there we go. It's got the description up at the top and the name of the animal. But with animal decks, it's always I use them as descriptors for characteristics or traits that we can embody to help us on our path. Versus, let's see, I have an astrology deck, purely astrology, and so this will help almost describe like the energetic environment that you're in and what energies are at play, not necessarily advice on what to do with them, but just to know what's going on around you. Let's see. And then this one is more of an advice deck where it tells you, what you need or what
Yeah.
you can do to help you. So there's so
I
many
recognize
different
those
decks.
red ones.
Yes, I do actually. This is one of my favorites.
That is a
Surprisingly,
Colette Baron Reed deck, actually.
is it? Yeah. Wisdom of the Oracle. Let's see what the card says. No place like home. You know what I mean? So it's these little sayings and phrases that can apply to just about anybody who can read it. Obviously, different cultures and different languages will have different
understandings.
And there are decks from all kinds of different. I just discovered on Kickstarter, actually.
It's a good place to find independent decks.
It is. It's wonderful. And there's I think it's called Om Tarot, the Om Tarot, and it's very it's got a lot of Hindu and Eastern art, and it applies to a lot of that mythology. It's another thing is that a lot of Oracle decks will apply to mythology, or they'll draw from, mythology and things of that nature, and so
It's like you find what your interests are. Find what art you like. If you're thinking like, how do I pick out a deck or whatever? Find what draws you in, and just grabs your attention, and then like
all about the
everything,
connection.
what resonates with you, right? Like what is it is. It's just like, how do I connect to that? I'm deepening my love and understanding for me and the personality or the aspect that I am in this space or in this incarnation. So and like how I got it turned on to tarot was I went for a reading. See, I had actually had readings, and I never even, I just started. I had a couple readings, but it's the first time I'd ever done it. And I was advised by the reader, the person that was reading for me, and it was an amazing reading. And she also is very gifted psychic medium, so she was able to connect to my angels. That was a new experience, pretty profound. And she was telling me that they wanted me to get a deck as a way to connect to them. So initially, the introduction for me was like, this is a way to connect to your angels and get guidance. Well, that sounds fun and magical. Why not, right? But what I've found in the course of working with them over and over is that it's built a deep connection to my my higher self, my inner guidance, my self-love, and my deep understanding of who I am and what I'm doing in my life, what decisions I'm making. My awareness is just expanding my awareness. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And so something that you do that I like, and I did a little bit when I first started reading cards, I would like mix up a bunch of different decks.
Oh yeah.
And now I kind of usually do like one deck. But Maddie does like these readings, they're really in depth, and you'll pull from like 4 or 5 decks depending on what the reading needs. I mean,
I designed a spread because I read on YouTube, and when I added up all the decks, it was like 15. It was like 15. But sometimes I only draw one card from each deck. But it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Different decks have even different tarot decks. So I have like 10 plus tarot decks. Technically, each card means the same as the other deck. But sometimes they just read differently.
Yeah.
I've got one deck that does not want to tell me how to fix things. It just wants to outline major intense energies, right? So it'll tell me all about my deep transformations that I have going on, but it has no advice when it comes to better money management, for example.
Right.
So, but then I have another deck that's only about better money management.
Right.
Almost literally.
Right.
So it's almost like a deck can have a personality, and it usually is based on, I think, the art style, but also the creator, whoever made the deck. I think
their
they
intention.
do.
Yeah.
Their intention. So that's my excuse anyway for owning so many decks is that they really do.
Right. It can be addictive.
Yeah, it can, and they don't always want to touch on different issues. So I have a deck specifically for shadow work because I got one deck that refuses to even acknowledge that there could be negativity in this world.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, and what's really interesting, so something I came across in my learning on doing readings, and I've added this in my Oracle 101 class that I teach at our center, is a deck interview.
Yes.
So you talk about their different personalities, and so I find it really cool because you can actually interview your deck. So you ask it questions, and then you pull a card. Yep. It's really interesting because you'll find that it really you'll get that connection. Like you'll pull it, and you'll be like, wow, that seems totally what it's like when I use this. It's really good at that. Or you ask its weaknesses, its strengths, and that's something if you do a search on YouTube, it should still be out there. But it's just really neat. So again, there's different ways to use it, and there is a bond. There's an energy and a bond to the deck. So I tend to use certain ones because I'm most connected to those decks. Those are where I'm the most bonded to. So
always ask your deck what it's trying to teach you.
Yes.
That's the main question that I always run into when I'm interviewing a deck. It's like, what are you here to teach me?
So now what I would like to do is we're going to do a collective reading. Maddie will start us off, and I may pull a couple cards as well, just for fun. Now, what's fun about this, again, remember there's no coincidences. So anybody watching this video is meant to watch this video.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling curious when you're like, I don't really know, whatever, it's just you're here. So that's what you start to understand is that, some energy like attracts like, and that's what you're, in some way you're meant to watch this video if you've made it this far. And therefore, when you get the reading, again, take what resonates, take what makes sense to you, take whatever that is. It may not be the whole reading, maybe it's one card. But that's the one card you needed to hear.
You want to hear my spiel for the beginning of every YouTube video?
Oh, yes.
This is a general reading and cannot possibly resonate with everyone. So take what does resonate, leave what doesn't. If none of it resonates, that's okay. This one might not be for you. You can check out readings for your moon sign, your rising sign, because astrology, again, does matter a lot when you're looking at readings, especially on YouTube. Otherwise, there's lots of other readers who may have something more attuned to your situation this week. It cannot all be for everybody.
Absolutely.
Because I get comments sometimes where people are like upset that my reading didn't apply to them. And it's like, but there's millions of people on YouTube and I only pulled 12 cards, so it's not gonna
and the truth is you should pick something up.
Yeah.
If nothing resonates, then maybe you're not looking at it the right way, right?
Well, usually they're looking for a specific thing.
They want that perfect answer. They want the one thing that's going to, that they want to hear. And as always, as a prescription, right, as we prescribe this, whatever the message is, it's understanding that you get what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear.
Yep.
Right? And that's how you have to go in. It's always about an open heart and an open mind, right? But open your heart, just be willing to receive whatever that might look like. And so, all right, we'll do a collective reading now. We won't go into too much more about how to be a reader. We can do maybe a later video on that. And then also when we're done with this, I want to give you Maddie's information because she does have a YouTube channel. She does do these collective readings, and like I say, she's wonderful. So also you should be able to reach out to her. You could probably do them. Do you do them over the phone and stuff, or Zoom?
Personal readings on Zoom, over the phone. I can film a video if people prefer to do it that way, but I'm open. Obviously, I like to be in communication with somebody during the reading, but there are a lot of options.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Excellent. So we'll give her a minute here. She's just gonna connect to that, and then shuffle till she's ready. That's how it works. There's not like, do I shuffle 10 times or do I shuffle? No, it's just I just go until I feel like pulling.
I shuffle until the cards jump out, and that annoys some people, and I do understand. But another thing too is that it is important what your intention is when you're shuffling. And sometimes I will just shuffle and not think about it, and then a card will come out, and then I'll be like, but how does it apply? You know? So usually I try to make sure that I'm like, okay, what do they need to know? What do people need to hear right now? That's what I ask when I shuffle, in case people are wondering what I'm asking.
And so what she's doing is, it's intention. She's connecting to that intention. She's putting the energy, right, in those cards. And just, you have to, as you're doing that, when you're clearing your mind, you're like, okay, what do I need? I'm one that's always like, what do I need to know? I'm not one about getting direct questions. Most of the time I can't come up with them. So it's always easier if I just trust my heart to tell me. So I'm just like, what does my heart need to know?
Okay, so first what came out was the Eight of Cups, which is hard to see, but the Eight of Cups is about turning your sights onto new horizons, basically. It's kind of about leaving behind something that is ready to go in your life, something that you don't need anymore, and turning towards something potentially unknown, something new, something better for you, and also more aligned with who you are. Because the Eight of Cups being number 8 out of 10 pip cards for each suit. So you can associate the numbers with maturity. So the Eight of Cups does indicate a certain level of emotional maturity that is gained after learning some hard life lessons. So once you get to the Eight of Cups, that's when you're in that place in your life where you realize that this habit or this job or this relationship, it's not working anymore. It's not aligned with who I am, and it's time to move on. It's when you're ready to move on, this is when this card is going to come out. And a card will never come out and give you advice on something that you're not ready for. That's one thing that I do fully believe.
Right.
So, yeah. And then after that, what came out was the Four of Cups. Again, kind of hard to see there, but just trust me. It says 4. And this is about... Actually, the Four of Cups is kind of interesting. It's one of those cards that can be more specific. It can indicate that there's some kind of offer coming in. Somebody wants to offer, and it could be an offer of a relationship because it's cups, so this is very emotional energy. Has to do with the emotional connections that we make with other human beings in our lives. So it can indicate an offer for a relationship or whatever coming into you that you are either, I guess, guided to kind of hold off on making a connection or accepting some kind of offer. Because it's an energy of sitting with yourself, being still within yourself in order to reassess where you're at and what you actually want for yourself. The traditional Rider-Waite deck, which he showed you a few minutes ago. The Four of Cups has a hand coming out of a dark cloud offering a cup out of nowhere, and then the character on the card is looking away and he's basically meditating, because I think it has a lot to do with going from your intuition as opposed to what other people expect of you or what society has taught you, or outside influences. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Outside influences. So when you have the Eight of Cups and the Four of Cups together, if this makes sense, we'll get back to the point of what I was saying.
I'll add a little to this too, because I'm getting some insight just from you talking. It's great.
It's time to move on. It's time to move on, but you need to be independent about it. You need to really take time with yourself to evaluate where you are, what you want, what you need, and be honest with yourself about what you need, and not just accept the easiest thing that comes in for you, or, be picky. Take your time. But make sure that you're going based off of your own intuition and your own reflection, your own, what's the word I'm looking for? Your own internal guidance, as opposed to letting somebody else come in and tell you what to do, or, allowing circumstances
It's perfect because
to
that's
dictate.
what we've been talking about, right? Is that
Yeah.
internal guidance. So they're bringing through a message of connecting internally, right?
Yep, and
So
the
that's
importance.
clearly what I feel. Again, there's no coincidences. So that's the message this video is trying to bring out, right?
Yeah.
So what I find beautiful, so as you're speaking this, again, we read differently, right? So how we would interpret. But as you're speaking, like it's opening up to me like an understanding. So I wouldn't know just right off the bat. I'm being up front, like 8 of Cups, like what it's telling me. I'd have to probably look it up in the book. But from what you're saying, it makes a lot of sense because the energy right now is really uncertain.
Yes.
We don't know, like there's an unknown, right? And emotional energies, right? We're all going through an emotional a shift and a change. And I can definitely see why they'd bring through those changes. And as we're trying to mature into the next phase or next stage of our emotional evolution, right, we have to be willing to kind of step into the areas that we aren't familiar with or uncomfortable, which I also call vulnerability, being allowing yourself to be a little vulnerable. And then like the 4 of Cups is wonderful too, because it is about going inward. And I think about the number 4 being a very balanced, stable number, right? Because you got all 4 sides,
Yep.
right? So it
Foundations.
feels like you're reaching a balance in there, in your emotional energy. And then also, and maybe you need to find out how to find that balance, what it is that gives you that balance. And it starts really with slowing down and going inward and trusting what comes to you.
Having a strong emotional stability that is not dependent on outside forces or outside factors. Being, I don't know, emotionally strong. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's not a fancy way to say it. It's about, being okay regardless of what happens around you, or, being able to be okay even when things might become a little chaotic or, again, uncertain.
Right.
Knowing that at the very least, you may not always feel 100% positive all the time. You won't always feel good about what's going on. However, it's not going to wreck your life. It's not going to, tear apart your worldview. It's not going to send you into a spiraling depression because you're solid. If
Right.
That makes sense.
And I'm also thinking like you got 4 of Cups, 8 of Cups. You have everything you need, right? Like you've built a good foundation too.
Yep.
On both of these. You got a 4 and then 8, which is 2 4s. So, you've built into a really solid foundation as far as even your emotional journeys that you've been through. So just trust that you have what you need and you'll always, be well taken care of. And yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yep. Follow your guidance, follow your heart, and you will be taken care of. And that is a belief that I hold personally, but I do kind of, try to explain it to a lot of people. Like if you're following your internal guidance and you're doing what feels it is the right thing for you to do, then it's most likely divinely guided, and Spirit's gonna help you on your path to make sure that, or God or whatever you want to call it. Spirit has your back. Spirit is making sure that things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So if something bad happens or you encounter a challenge, then it's because you needed to learn something from that. And good thing it happens sooner rather than later is what I always tell myself. Like,
Right.
So good thing I'm still young. But
so
yeah.
and this is great. So I went ahead and pulled a couple cards. She's gonna continue as well, and this is gonna lead right into what we're talking about. I'm starting to see the theme, and when I do readings, that's how I kind of pick it up. Is as I get an overall message, I start seeing the whole picture versus just each individual pieces. It starts to make sense. So as we're learning about our emotions and the shifts and changes in our emotions, so one of the cards that I got here is Kali Ma. She looks a little scary, but she's really good because she's about facing fear. Major spiritual changes are unfolding. This is your chance to soar. So again, it's about that maturity in your emotional guidance and in the things that are coming. And even though it's uncertain, you just have to be willing to face that fear, right? And know that it is helping to really help you grow into something truly amazing, and it's your chance to soar. So when you face your fear, and I feel like that's true, anytime we face our fears, it gives us a great opportunity to really grow and expand. And then the next one that I got is, and I'm probably not going to say the name right on here, the Shekinah, and that is the sacred self. So if I said that wrong, try not to judge me too harshly. Shekinah, there we go, that works too. But it's about unleash your spirit, express your gifts, dance to the sacred rhythm of life. So as you're moving into this, what's really going to help you is you face your fears, right? And you begin to step into who you are. Just allow yourself to freely express whatever it is that you come into, whatever gifts you have to share, and go with the flow. It is a little unknown. It is a little uncertain. But don't worry, man. As you face that, you find that you have everything you need. You have the strength in you. You have the support system in you. I mean, YouTube is full of videos like these and readers and stuff. So whenever you need that extra guidance, just go with it. Trust that inner guidance to you. So what else do we get here? Oh, great. She pulled a few different ones.
So we have change. Okay, you can't see it, but trust me, it says change, which makes sense. Like he said, we're all going through this emotional, spiritual shift. And it is very pronounced right now. It's the energy on the planet. It's affecting everyone. Every reading that I've done has been very similar for the past 4 or 5 months. Everyone's going through these major internal transformations. And it has to do specifically with destroying old belief systems that we hold on to that no longer apply to our situation or to us, that are sometimes they're blatantly false as well. And these are going to be beliefs that were taught to you probably as a child, which makes it even harder because it's that deep inset programming that we all have. And a lot of people are just waking up to realizing that they are not their programming and that their programming isn't always right, and that you have to adjust your beliefs.
Yeah, I always refer to another one of my favorite kind of guides in this journey for me has been Joe Dispenza, and it's breaking the habit of being yourself, right? You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We know that's, according to the quote of Albert Einstein, that's the definition of insanity, right? So it is. You got to just be willing to make changes, and change is inevitable. Change, Absolutely. It's going to happen. It's always going to happen. The universe
It's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to. If things don't change, then you're doing something wrong, because we should be in a constant state of growth and change.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we also have the sage, and this has very much to do with exactly what we were talking about, being in touch with our inner wisdom, our inner knowing. The sage doesn't know everything, but what the sage does know is what they've gathered from their going within themselves to learn about themselves and other people. So a real strong emphasis here on your connection to yourself, to your intuition. So if that were to be advice for you, it would be to make sure that you're spending a lot of time in reflection and really analyzing how you feel, what you think, what beliefs do you hold that actually block you from being open to new ideas and new concepts. And that's a big thing about interpreting oracle and tarot cards as well, is that sometimes you have to be open to expanding your beliefs on what certain things mean or what's possible in this world. Otherwise, you cut off a lot of information from coming in. We also have influence, which this actually has a lot to do with that Four of Cups that we were talking about just a minute ago. I could read this two ways. The first way is that Spirit is trying to influence you or guide you in the right direction, and that you can access that information, that guidance from Spirit by going within, because that's where the connection is. It's like in your heart, or no, it's in your heart. Heart. That's what I think, anyway.
I agree. I agree with that. Well, and I think, so what's important about that message coming up again, and I forgot you had mentioned that earlier as well on that card, is that outside influence, right? But this is why the message is coming in to say that you need to go inward more, because the heart is where our real guidance is. So connect inward with that more, and I mean, that's really going to guide you. Your heart is always going to bring you to your highest good. You just have to believe that and see that and start to perceive that in everything that's going on in your life. It's always about your highest good. Even when things are really tough or traumatic or whatever, there's something in there for you to learn and grow from, and that's why it's there. There's a lot of other outside influences that affect everybody, so we also have to respect that they're being affected by those outside influences.
Absolutely.
But if you connect in and really allow yourself to be guided by you in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
And with your own love of self, then it's going to take you always where you need to go and give you the lessons that you need to grow.
Yep, and you're going to love this. Flexibility, I'll show you in just a second. Flexibility of thought, maturity, and balance. The dragonfly. Okay, so because like you said, you were brought to this video somehow, some way, for some reason. So when there are images on the cards like this, the dragonfly, maybe there's somebody watching this who has a special connection to the dragonfly. Maybe you like dragonflies as a decoration or as an animal. I don't know. But what was it here? We got the moon phases. So some of you guys, oh, you see that?
Yeah. Green screen on there. Yep.
Oh, yeah. We have the hot air balloon. Okay, so it takes you into the unknown. And one thing about a hot air balloon, I don't know. I've never actually ridden in one, but I'm guessing it's not very easy to steer a hot air balloon. And I think that can kind of highlight the, being strong in your own personal power, not feeling like you're out of control. You're always in control of yourself, but you're not always in control of the changes happening around you.
Yeah, and I think
guess
it's about that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Seeing it from another perspective. And a hot air balloon is up. A lot of times when you get like birds and stuff that come into your readings, a lot of time that is about looking at it from a different perspective. This reading, if it's not picking up to you, look at it change your perspective a little bit. See if there's something else that resonates to you. If you even have just a little something from this, like one of the things just stuck to you and you're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, and then start to like dive into that a little more, lean into what that's making you feel like, that message is there for you. I promise you, whatever that might be. So,
And when you're doing a reading for yourself or for somebody else, sometimes I look at a card and it gives me an emotion. Sometimes it's a strong emotion. Sometimes I will be in the middle of a reading and I'll see something that just like strikes a chord and makes me cry. And I don't even know why. Pay attention to that. Your body communicates with you just as much as your intuition does. So when you're getting in touch with your higher self, or you're gaining that higher perspective, you kind of separate your ego from, I guess, your sensory input, your experience in the moment. That's another thing too. Being present is really important.
Oh yes.
It's probably
and that's
the biggest
what going
thing.
inward does for you too. Is it helps you to be more present.
Yep.
And the card reading, that helps you to be more present. Believe it or not. I mean, you can do past, present, future card readings, but if I'm doing that, I still have to be present with where I'm at now to understand what that message is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. That was a great reading. I think this is really powerful, and this makes a lot of sense to me why this is coming up and coming out. There is, just again, kind of recap a little bit, guys. It's about that overall emotional shifts and changes that are occurring in your life, being aware of the outside influences, how those are affecting you, and being more connected, more present, being willing to go in more, meditate, whatever it takes for you to kind of like shut off all of the noise that's going on, be flexible, understand what you need to be in balance, to balance out your life a little bit more. Yep. We're all in the matrix, man. I get it. We're all going through that. That's the whole point of this, of card readings, and that's the whole point of self-mastery, the awakened journey that you start to walk is connecting to that and understanding how you can get a little bit more from that. So I think this has been really, really wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy.
I enjoyed this. We should do it again.
Definitely. And that's the idea. I definitely want to do have more. We could go into other card readings. Maybe we'll just do some card readings every once in a while.
That'd be fun.
I love doing it. I love doing card readings.
Too.
So it's a lot of fun. And we might go over like some different decks, more detail on those. If that's something you guys are interested in, comment below just so that we kind of know how you feel.
That'd be fun.
Like I'm open to the ideas, whatever it is. Just keep your hearts open. Allow yourself to be guided, promptly. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close up our video today?
Actually, yes, because I forgot to touch on it earlier. If you decide to go out and get a tarot reading from a professional tarot reader, I think it is important to understand what to expect, which you probably already have an idea now from everything that we've said, but I just want to lay it out flat and clear. No one can tell you the future. The future is not set in stone, and you have free will. So, all that a reader can really honestly do, unless they have some deeper skill or connection that doesn't involve the cards. Cards cannot tell you your future, but they can tell you what your energy is now and how it could develop if you don't apply the necessary changes. And when you go to a reading and you get a warning or some kind of prediction or information that's not pleasant, sometimes in a reading, I will pull a couple cards for potential challenges that people might experience. And when I do that, I always want to make sure that you understand that, first of all, it may not be for you. Second of all, this is only a potentiality. Don't obsess over negative seeming cards and manifest them into your life. If I say you might
Yeah.
run into a money challenge, then you sit there and you worry about it like, oh no, oh God, am I going to run out of money? Is my bill going to get paid?
Call that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. That can be really,
Placebo, right? Like
yeah.
the placebo effect. Somebody's saying something and then you make it
And
true
you make it
because your mind
Yep.
puts it in there. Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice.
So, and then what else was I going to say? I wrote it down. What to expect when you get it. No, I didn't write it down. Yeah. Just understand that tarot oracle card reading, the movies made it about fortune telling. That's not what it is. It's about looking at yourself where you're at and getting yourself realigned on your proper path, on the path that you agreed to, in my opinion, to before you came into this life.
Yeah.
Fulfilling your soul purpose, your mission.
They're tools.
Absolutely.
Guys, they call it a divination tool. There's many out there. And something that I didn't really mention that I think is important if you work with anything when it comes to spirit talking or whatever you want to call it, it's super important that you set good intention.
Absolutely.
You have to make sure your space, we burn a little sage, just to kind of clear the energy a little bit, but also only inviting in that good energy. That's you. It's your intention. But if you just openly go in and you're in the wrong frame of mind or the wrong energy, and then you invite whatever spirit in, it's no different than playing with the Ouija board, which most people will tell you to stay away from those because you're just kind of opening up a line of communication there because it's not, the intentions aren't good there. So again, if I've been thinking the right hands, maybe the right person can handle it. I won't touch one. I'm going to be honest with you.
No.
I'm not going to mess with that. Not because I'm necessarily afraid, but I just don't need to invite in or mess with any of those kinds of energies, those frequencies.
No.
I only personally want to work with high frequencies. When I do this, it's like, it doesn't matter what the image on the card is. I'm only inviting in, my higher guidance, my, angelic realms, those things in the higher frequencies, and that has the highest good involved. So
absolutely.
That's wonderful. So I'm glad we touched on that because I had forgot about that too. So, well, thank you so much once again. Why don't you tell everybody how they can kind of find you, and then what I'll do also in the little description down here, I will put all of her information. I'll link it in there so you guys can find her. So, but where can they reach you at?
So I'm on YouTube at Wild Magnolia Tarot. That's the name of my channel. I have a Twitter that I never post on, but I do check it. So if you want to get a hold of me, also Wild Magnolia Tarot. No, wait, it's at Wildest Magnolia because somehow Wild Magnolia Tarot was already taken as a Twitter handle. Yeah. I think I also have an Instagram, so social media, all that, and then I just made a Facebook page as well, Wild Magnolia Tarot. And then we'll just post the links. But I post videos. Granted, with all the changes that have been going on for everybody lately, it has also been happening to me. Hardcore. It's been, I want to use the word bad to emphasize the effect it's having on my daily schedule, but it's not bad.
Act.
Oh, it's so I haven't
she's a
uploaded
parent as well.
Yes.
And I'm also a parent.
Yes.
So
homeschooling
there's
in the middle of COVID.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's just like.
Yeah, we won't get in too much into that. We're not gonna dive into that algorithm, but
No. So I haven't posted as regularly as I would like, is what I was getting to. But I will be posting a new round of readings here soon on my YouTube channel, so just keep an eye out for that. And other than that, I don't exist anywhere else.
Well, you exist on multi-dimensional levels. We're multi-dimensional beings. If you guys haven't caught
somewhere
on to
between my kitchen table and my bed.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. And I know this is kind of a long video, guys, so if you made it through this one, thank you
High
so
five.
much. Really, it's wonderful.
Gold star.
And I'll also make sure that I have a nice little link to where the reading is. So if you want to come back to the reading, we'll have that in there.
Timestamp.
And we appreciate your feedback. We appreciate all the work you're doing to all the star seeds and light workers, light warriors out there, and everybody in between. I just want to send you so much love and thank you so much for all that you do and just being you, man, and putting in the time. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. So I guess for now, bye. See you later.
Be good, be safe, but don't be too good.